Also, we'll be talking to the people that took to the streets to protest low traffic neighbourhoods. Less traffic, isn't that a good thing? Well, according to some people, apparently not, and we'll have that story after the break. People are furious. Planters have been set on fire, and we've seen protesters take to the streets to reject them. So let's have a conversation about what on earth is going on. Are they good? Are they bad? If you've got a view on this, of course, let me know what you think. But joining me to discuss this is Niall Crowley, who was out protesting at the weekend, and journalist Christian Wolmar, who is in favour of low traffic neighbourhoods. Firstly, Niall, you represent the Horrendous Hackney Road Closures group.
Yep, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Well, I think it's very descriptive. I think I can gather where you stand on that. So tell me, you were out protesting this weekend. What is your problem with LTNs?
We were protesting. There were groups from across North and East London. The low traffic neighbourhoods, so-called low traffic neighbourhoods and roadblocks they haven't been around that long really. They were dropped on us during the lockdown. So they, without consultation, without prior notice, they were literally just dropped on us from a great height with the kind of message to say, just get used to it. Before then, there were various consultations, certainly in Hackney where I am, about proposals to close roads, and almost every time residents overwhelmingly rejected road closures. But because of COVID legislation, the councils were able to just push them right through, and it's just had such a terrible detrimental impact on the disabled, on businesses, on elderly, people just trying to get from A to B. So it's just had a really bad impact. You know, you just can't get around anymore.
So interesting. Christian, you join me. You've just heard Niall there say that, you know, they are preventing people basically from getting around. What's your view on them?
Well, I'd like to ask Niall. He campaigned at the weekend about road closures. Can he name a single road that's actually been closed? I mean, is there any road that actually nobody can get into anymore because it's been closed? I mean, this is clearly not the case. The fact is that low traffic neighbourhoods involve the blocking off of one end of a road, possibly, but allow every resident still to get access. They don't get in the way of people, and they allow people who are walking and cycling to get through. Yes, they might cause a little bit of inconvenience to some motorists, but they improve the environment in the areas in which they cover and make it basically a place that people want to live.
And so I must say to my viewers as well, this isn't a London-specific issue, by the way. These neighbourhoods are popping up right across the UK. But Niall, coming back to you, you know, what you're hearing Christian say there is that people can still get around. So he's basically disagreeing with pretty much everything that you just said.
Total fantasy world stuff. Getting from Hackney into Islington now, almost every road is blocked off.
Do you mean by car?
It's almost like... Yes, by car. I'm a cyclist, you know, I watch what it's doing to people, seeing people sitting in traffic jams for really, really long, massive traffic jams that just weren't there before, because you have to go around and around and around. It's causing lots of extra journeys, extra miles, people stuck in traffic, extra emissions. It's doing the opposite of what they're saying. It's deliberately causing misery. And what they're doing is trying to to modify our behaviour. It's an exercise in driving us out of our cars by forcing us to behave in a different way. It's thoroughly anti-democratic, and it's completely cruel.
Cruel? Christian, are these things completely cruel?
No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, 2 points here. First of all, we are in the midst of a climate crisis, and these are small measures that are designed, yes, to some extent, to encourage people to use their bicycles and walk rather than cars, particularly for short journeys where that is perfectly possible. But secondly of all, I think Niall is failing to understand the history of urban areas. Essentially, the roads that we live in, most of them are residential. They are not meant for vast amounts of through traffic. In fact, I am talking at the moment from my house, which is on a low traffic neighbourhood, which has been a low traffic neighbourhood for 30 or 40 years. If it wasn't blocked off at one end, it would be a shortcut between Tufnell Park and Camden Town, and it would have hundreds of cars running around it. So what these measures are, and I accept that some of them might have been imposed a little bit too quickly or not quite correctly designed, but that can be ameliorated over time. But they are introduced within a context of trying to improve air quality, trying to reduce traffic, and trying to make people's lives better. It's been shown that people who live in streets where there is not much traffic are more likely to know each other, they're more likely to have friendly neighborhoods, they're more likely to communicate with each other. That is a fact that stretches back to research in San Francisco 50, 60 years ago.
And Niall, what's wrong with trying to get people out of their cars and onto their feet or their cycles?
I cycle. I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with improving, neighbourhoods for people. That's not what they're doing. They're deliberately taking away people's choices. I grew up without a car. My parents couldn't afford a car, and as I understand it, it's only very recently that working class people over recent years have been able to afford cars and foreign holidays. And it seems to me that what they're doing is really trying to take those things away from us. And I think there's an element of class snobbery about it, that the middle classes have fallen out of love with the car, so they want to take our cars away from us now as well. And it's up to us, they don't trust people to make choices. People, as I say, the group was started by young carers and young mothers who have to make choices. They have to make their own choices. People like Christian and politicians like, our Mayor of Hackney just do not trust people to make the right choices. They brand them as irresponsible. They brand them as rat runners. It's a little culture war. They declared war on people, saying, we will make the choices for you. We know what's good for you. Do as you're told. And it's just not on.
So, Christian, do you agree with that? So, Niall's saying here it's almost like a culture war. People are being told you basically cannot use your car.
No, the opponents have been pushing this as a culture war. It's nothing to do with being a culture war. I mean, Niall is talking about choice. Well, I'll tell you what is a choice. A choice is kids being able to cycle to school at the age of 10 or 9 or 10 as they do in Holland. It's people being able to walk around their streets without fear of being run over by cars running at 30 miles an hour. The choice at the moment is very constrained for people because of the intense use of cars. And that's got worse. Niall hasn't recognised this. That's got worse because of sat-navs. So 10 years ago, many of the residential streets that are now being turned into LTNs would not have needed to be turned into LTNs because people didn't have sat-navs and weren't kind of told to go down these kind of often narrow residential streets. Now, with sat-navs, what has happened is that many of these streets that were peaceful before have become crowded with people driving through very fast in their cars. And this is what that has stimulated the fact that we need these LTNs.
Answer to you. What are you trying to achieve with your protests?
I think it's a democratic issue, and I think we need to get the road closures removed.
So you want no...
the LCNs from the last year, there were consultations and, those things should be adhered to. You can't just impose things on people like that. It's having a huge and terrible impact on
So if they gave you notice, would you be happier with them?
No.
So you don't want them, so in respect, you just don't want them, so
no, I
if
think
they give you
people
notice,
should be allowed to make choices about whether car usage has actually been going down for 20 years. The problem is solving itself. Cars are becoming less polluted. Fewer car owners. We have more deliveries and more Amazon and things like that. So the problem solving itself, it's a war on people, and it's a culture war on people. Right,
okay, well, very strong views there. That's Niall Crowley. Christian Wolmar, thank you very much, both of you, for your time. Now, as I've said, these low traffic neighbourhoods, this is not just a London thing. This is right across the UK. Do you have one near you? I mean, let's just take a quick look at the protest that we saw. This is the protest, the low traffic neighbourhood at the weekend, and these guys really disagree with it. with it in their neighbourhoods. So I want to know from you, do you have a low traffic neighbourhood where you live? Do you like it? Is it something that you dislike? Do you think there's a war on cars? Ollie, you're still with me. What's your thoughts?
Well, Christian's a respected transport journalist. I get he's an expert in that space, but I don't know which streets in London he's been witnessing recently, because you can't drive down most streets under anything more than 20 miles an hour because this is potted with all sorts of speed restrictions. My feeling on this is I totally agree with Niall. The way that this has come about has been so sudden and without consultation. It does feel slightly anti-democratic. And my experience of them so far, though not as great as your two guests before, is that it's naked NIMBYism. And it's people who are
NIMBYism.
Who are quite well organised, generally middle class, who have been able to arrange their lives in a way that they don't need a car. And that's fine for them. But as Niall was saying, there are still a lot of people who need to get to work in a car, whether it's London or anywhere else in the country. Until public transport is better, that is always going to be the case. And then the final point I'd make, I've got an electric car. I'm not allowed to drive.
Have you?
I'm not allowed.
That must mean you're very posh then.
I'm just looking after the environment, Michelle. I care.
Very good, very good. Well, let me know what you think. Coming up in the next